Welcome to another episode of Open Oven. My name is Mike Smith. Like I had told you before, if you've watched these episodes previously, I am a guy who likes to cook. I am not a chef. What I try to do is come up with recipes that are relatively easy to make. You don't have a huge grocery list, and almost anybody can make these. So I grew up in a single parent family. My mother with 3 boys. I was the oldest of 3 boys, so I was the one who learned how to cook. I was the one who did a lot of that pretty simple cooking. It's not difficult to make Kraft dinner, but you know, we had to learn a few more things along the way. And then as I went to college, I tended to be the person who cooked. So here I am trying to share some of those ideas with you. So what we're going to have today is we're going to have spicy Italian sausage and shrimp pasta. Lots of variations of this. You can make this without shrimp. You can make a vegetarian version. You can make a beef version. You could make a chicken version, whatever you like. But today we're going to make a spicy Italian sausage and shrimp pasta. Before we get there, we're going to add some garlic toast at the end of this. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make a little bit of a homemade garlic butter. And I'm actually going to use real garlic. I'm just going to slice it fairly thin because we're going to end up not using the pieces of garlic, but we want that garlic to affect our butter. All right. So what I have is a decently small size amount of butter. I'm going to take some of those garlic pieces in there. Just stir that around a bit, mix it a little bit, get the garlic in the butter. And again, we're going to be using that kind of a little bit later. And I'm just going to place that in the oven. Let's go, we'll just toast that. And it's on there for 3 minutes. I'm going to get that butter heated up. So the garlic, when it's heated in the butter, will absorb a lot more of that taste into the butter. And we're going to use that to put on some just plain bread, any type of bread. You can use croissants, you could use whatever you like to create some garlic toast. So let's get rolling. So I've got our ceramic top burner. Nice thing about these, if you're using these, is they heat up extremely quickly. I'm going to take a little bit of oil, olive oil, sunflower oil, whatever you prefer. Just put a little bit of that in there. I'm going to make sure that that's hot. And what we're going to do is we're going to put some of the ingredients that we're going to use for the pasta sauce. I'm actually going to make homemade pasta sauce. So we're not using canned or jarred pasta sauce. We're going to make our own. So firstly, we're going to end up putting some garlic in there. So I'll just finish using some of that from the clove I have. And again, you don't have to cut into real big pieces because we'll probably take that garlic out, but it's there to be absorbed. And it's white onion. Cut that relatively small. This will obviously stay in our sauce. Again, if you prefer red onions, if you prefer a certain type of onion, you can use that. Keep it fairly small. Again, depending on how you like your sauce, but we're going to take that, we're going to pop that right in there. That's It's going to start to sizzle pretty quickly. I've got it in about medium heat. Again, you're trying to fry some of that up. We're going to take mushrooms. And these are all things that are eventually going to be part of your sauce. Again, nice part about making your own sauce is if you like a certain type of mushroom or a certain type of onion, you use those. I've just got your generic mushroom. We'll cut those up. And again, with like most of the things that we do here on Open Oven, if you want to use a little more mushroom, use more. If you want to use a little less, use a little bit less. And that's the nice part about doing your own sauce, is you get to customize it however you like. Put some of that in there. That's got a little bit of garlic in there. Give that a quick little stir. We'll just check on my butter. Yes, that butter is nicely melted. Get that, and I can smell that. You can't smell that through the camera, but I can smell that garlic already from here, which is good because you want that garlic and the little bit of oil. I'm going to add a tiny bit of oil to this because the pan is pretty hot. I'm going to get that browned a little bit. You are not cooking this. All you're doing is getting it browned, softening it up a little bit, because you don't have to have cooked onion, you don't have to have cooked mushrooms, you just want it obviously softened up. When you put that, end up putting that in your sauce, and if you end up obviously cooking your sauce is going to soften those up, and all of those tastes are going to be absorbed. So I want to take a quick look at that. Not really a whole lot to it, pretty easy. And again, if you want to add other things, we're going to end up adding a lot of our spices when we get to our sauce. But this is just kind of the first step. And that's, again, adding that garlic taste in with the onion taste. I'll just let that brown a little bit. And right after the break, we're going to come back, and then we're going to take a look at what we're going to do next and how we're going to make homemade sauce. It's so simple. You can see you've got the tomatoes here. Really, really simple, and you can make your own pasta sauce. So we'll be right back, and we'll continue on. All right, welcome back. We're going to go up to the next stage. I'm just going to set aside the garlic, onions, and mushrooms. We're going to end up adding that back in a little bit later. I'm going to keep that on there. And now we're going to put a little more oil in there. Let that get hot. If you're using a hot plate, regular stove, this type of stove, and you're using olive oil, any type of oil really, before you put your meat in it, or your shrimp in this case, make sure it's hot, because it'll absorb the oil. If the oil's cold, whatever you're putting in there is just going to absorb that oil. We don't want that. We want to cook it in the oil. We don't want it to be left oily. So, and I'm going to cook these. Again, I'm not cooking them all the way through. We're going to put them in like half pieces. And you can use any type of sausage. I like something that has spice in it. I'm not actually a spicy food eater, but this, you have so little sausage in there once you mix all of those other tastes and smells, that the little bit of spice that's in the sausage kind of gets, it gets a little calmer when you put the shrimp in and with the tomatoes and things. So you can, even if you're not a spicy food eater, you can get away with using a spicy sausage in this recipe. So, and you measure, again, you're making your own sauce, so feel free to put however little or however as much. And you can hear that sizzle, so you know it's got some heat to it. I'm going to turn it up a tiny bit now, and then we're going to saute that. We're going to brown it And I'm going to throw the shrimp in with it, maybe a tiny bit more oil. A little bit of a mess with the oil. I'm going to put that shrimp in there. And I am going to add some spice now. I'm going to add some black pepper. And just a tiny bit of salt at this point. We're going to end up putting some more salt in our sauce. I'm just going to put some in there while we do that. And take a peek at that. Looks pretty yummy already. So we definitely need to cook this. If we're using pre-cooked shrimp, you've got to take the tails off because you're going to end up just dumping this in your sauce. So you've got to take your tails off. And you're basically sauteing this. You're using that oil to turn it up a little hotter. You're using that oil to heat up those shrimp. The shrimp are pre-cooked, so it's not like if you use raw shrimp, you're going to have to cook the shrimp first. So you're going to have to fry that shrimp up first to make sure that it's cooked. In this case, the sausage are such small pieces it won't take long for them to cook. You don't want to overcook. When you have sausage or any type of pork, obviously you want the meat cooked, but you want to be careful you're not overcooking it. It's got a little bit of a bigger piece there. I'm going to cut that down a little bit. Whoops. Turn it off by accident. Get her back on. You can use butter in this if you prefer using some butter or combining the butter with the oil. You can do it that way. I know a lot of times if I'm sauteing shrimp, I'll use butter. Keep in mind, butter can burn, so you can't leave it in there very long if you're going to use butter. That's the nice part about oil is that it cooks it pretty well. I'm just going to let that simmer a bit. If you remember, we put that, I'm going to use my oven mitt. Remember, we put that butter in here. I let that sit in there, the butter hot. I let it just sit with the garlic in it. I'm going to give that a bit of a stir. And then we're going to pop that back in there for another minute or so. I'm just going to, again, we're cooking that garlic into the butter a little bit. All right. So we're getting to the point where that's almost ready or enough to join with the onions and the garlic and the mushrooms. It's starting to smell really, really good too. You can definitely smell the spices from the sausage. We're going to make a homemade pasta sauce, which we're going to get to right after the break. And that's what's wonderful about this. Add anything you like. Anything that you like, you can customize this. You don't get that benefit when you buy sauce in a jar. So I'm just going to set that on here just to kind of show you what it looks like at this point. We're going to set that aside. And of course, we still need to boil our water and get started on our pastas. Use any pasta you like. Okay, I call them swirlies. We're going to use this pasta, but feel free to use any pasta you like. So we'll be right back right after the break and we'll finish this up. And we're back. So we sped up the process, I say the magic of television, and we have our pasta cooked and ready to go. We're just going to actually set that aside. And we're going to get going on the sauce itself. And again, this is pretty easy. Don't have to make it overly complicated. I've got 2 large cans of whole tomatoes. And I've washed my hands really, really well. And we're going to actually make that sauce. We're going to squeeze up those tomatoes. I'll finish it with kind of a potato masher, but if you really squeeze it, you can get that tomato broken up. This is the base from where we're going to make our pasta sauce. break up those whole tomatoes. You can actually do this from raw tomatoes. So for those of you who have never boiled tomatoes, if you boil the tomatoes in whole, you don't have to peel them or anything. When they're done, the skin will actually peel off, and then you have basically the exact same thing as what we have here. So get it into pretty decent sized pieces. Grab some paper towel. And make sure that's, decently ground up pieces of tomato. When you heat it up, it'll help break it up as well, but that's the base of your tomato sauce. And then we're going to start to add what's too much of a mess here, but we're going to add the rest of what the base of our sauce is going to be. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to add it into our pot. Our pot I just turned on, so it's nice and hot. And we're going to start with that. Now, again, we are talking about homemade spaghetti sauce. So you make it however you'd like to make it. That's completely, totally up to you what you want to add. You're going to have to obviously add some spices. So I have a teaspoon or so of salt. I'm going to throw that in there. Black pepper, again, as you kind of like. Let me just dry my hands a little bit. Black pepper as much or as little as you like. If you like to add some spice to it, you can use a little bit of chili powder, any type of spice that you would like to add to the sauce. Still not dry enough. All right, probably about a shaker would have been better, but I'm going to put some black pepper in there. You can use basil, oregano, whatever types of spices you're familiar with. If you want to add even if you want to add some Parmesan cheese already to the sauce, you could do that. We're going to use an Italian spice. It's just a pre-bought, pre-mixed Italian spices. We definitely want to use all of that. That'd be 2 or 3 tablespoons full. Get that in there. That's definitely going to add some flavor. Let's see if I can get you a little shot of that. Mix all that up. We're going to get the temperature going because we do want to cook that and get it nice and hot. And you would, you can leave this on for as long as you like. If you want to let it stew on a low temperature for 20 minutes or so, or if you want to do it high, if you're strapped for time, just put it on a little higher temperature. All of our mix is completely cooked. So we've got our Italian sausage and our shrimp. This was our garlic and our onions and our mushrooms. So we're going to get that in there. I'm going to put it actually in the sauce. And we'll use that sauce because everything was cooked on there. I'm going to use that plate. All right, so it's starting to look like sauce. So you take a quick peek of that. It's starting to look pretty yummy. So I'm just going to stir that as we go. Remember, we put that garlic butter. I'm going to take that butter out. I'm just going to use a regular loaf of bread. Again, if you want to use a Kaiser bun or you want to use any type of bread, you can do that. And very, very simple garlic bread. Remember, we've got garlic in there that's been kind of melted along that with that garlic. So we take that butter, spread it around. I'm going to throw it in our little toaster back here. Toast that for a second, and that will go well with our pasta. I've got it on a fairly high temperature so that gets nice and warm. Everything in here now is cooked, so there's no danger. You could eat it right now. You could eat it, in theory, you could eat the sauce cold if you liked cold. But as soon as that's hot and ready to go, you're ready to serve. If you wanted to make this a vegetarian sauce, you could leave out any of the fish, any of the shrimp, any of the meat. You could make that with some type of tofu or what other types of substitutes you like. And if you want more meat, you could do a pasta sauce with ground beef if you wanted to, and you could add sausage as well. Really, it's just depending on how you like it. So I'm going to get some of this pasta, put some of that on the plate. My toast is coming along. Stir that one more, give that one more good stir. And you have homemade pasta. Grab this bread out of here, throw yourself a little piece of garlic toast, and there you have it. Enjoy.